Charlie, I feel like a lot of sellers feel like the act of preparing their home for sale is maybe a bit daunting. I was wondering if you could offer any tips to people for staging advice, maybe how different rooms should be staged. What are some of the best practices?
Outside of a professional stager, which clearly that person has a lot of skill and an artistic eye. That's someone you would hire to come in and probably furnish a fairly high-end home relative to the town, and they would come in and do that for you. So in that instance, you've got someone who's bringing in outside furniture, photographs, vases and flowers and things like that, like home goods to bring the space, to elevate the space.
Yeah.
So that's one approach. It's at the cost of the seller.
Yeah.
So it's really a decision on their part whether they feel, and obviously on the agent's part, whether it seems like the home is appropriate for that expense, because it's an additional expense in addition to the other taxes and realtor fees and everything else that you pay to close. I'd say, if you weren't in that bucket, that's where you would be considering what you asked. What tips, what could I do to make my house better? I think probably a good agent hopefully is helping you with this. The things, it's not really that complicated from my perspective. You're decluttering, you're simplifying the home. You're oftentimes getting rid of really personal effects, although I think there's some gray area there where people are not overly concerned about your kids' photos here and there, as long as they're not covering, every inch of the house. And the space is getting simplified, cleaned up. It's a blank slate is really what it is. It allows the buyer to walk in and see the home, really what's happening, this is subconscious. Some buyers might not even realize this, but what is happening in that phase is that you're imagining living there. You're going to your subconscious and essentially you're asking yourself, is this the space that I envisioned? Is this matching? And the staging allows the space to present that way better.
Yeah.
Because you're not sending them messages of it's your home.
Yeah.
You're sending them a message of it is a home where they can imagine themselves in.
Yeah.
And that's where the decluttering comes from. That's where the depersonalization comes from that you often hear about with staging, removing real personal things
that makes
from
sense.
the home, etc. Yeah. And then it's about, putting the furniture in places that make more sense, honestly, not from a user standpoint, but from a visual standpoint.
Yeah. I walk into this room.
Yeah.
What's the best possible presentation?
Right.
Even though when you're living in that room, maybe the couch shouldn't be in that corner or something, for example.
Yeah, exactly. I want to walk in the room. I want to showcase that amazing fireplace. So I might pull the couches apart.
Yeah.
It sucks to sit in that room that way.
Yeah, of course.
Because the fireplace is over there and you're not, you're not facing it. So would you set it up that way? No. For living purposes, no, you wouldn't. But for staging purposes, we're going to see it very different. It's a showcase, really, of the home.
That makes
it's
a ton
about
of sense.
Setting the furniture up. It's about replacing some. It really depends what the client has, the price of the home, and the willingness of the seller to actually pay for the staging, for the professional level staging. A lot of times. Fortunately, here in Greenwich, the sellers already have really good quality furniture.
I would imagine.
So we're able to really work with
their
stuff.
What's there.
Yeah.
So is pro staging generally reserved for empty homes?
Yeah, that's a good point. It could be. It really depends on there are so many factors to deciding whether you would do pro staging or not.
Yeah.
The budget, the value of the home, how it presents itself. In its, let's call it naked form, where there's no furniture in the home, how it presents itself in that raw form.
Yeah, like some houses or maybe even some rooms may look better empty, or it's serves as a better blank slate to buyers.
Or you can walk in the room and you can kind of figure it out. Bedrooms are usually easy. There's windows. Clearly, the bed's not going there.
Yeah.
So you're looking for the large walls where the bed can go up against, and you're looking, saying, okay, the bed can be here and here.
Yeah.
It's for most buyers that's fairly easy. But if you walk into the main living space in a lot of homes, especially the grander homes that we tend to run into more often here, they're going to be ambiguous from the perspective of where are things supposed to go.
Yeah.
And they spend more time, they're burning the brain energy trying to figure out how they would use it instead of figuring out, does this feel right to me?
Yeah.
You don't really want them to have to go through that process of struggling to figure out where it's going to go, because that's really not the right emotional state. The emotional state you want them to be in is in love.
Yeah, excited.
Excited,
Yes.
yeah, about the space, and you don't really want to get them sidelined on what will we do here?
Where would I put the couch?
I don't know. Do you think our couch would fit in here?
Yeah.
We don't even want them going there right now. And they'll go there eventually. They'll think about that, but that first moment is not the right time.
That makes sense.
To do that.
Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
With that said, what are your thoughts on virtual staging?
I think it applies, and it applies for certain homes. If it's more of an entry level price point, you're probably not going to spend the money on staging. You've moved all your furniture out. We want to try and show we're trying to achieve the same thing that I said before. We don't want the buyer to go through that process of where does the stuff go.
Yeah.
And so we could use virtual staging. And in our case, we often have those virtually staged photos in a photo pedestal stand on site. So when they walk into the room, they're seeing that image.
Yeah.
And the intent or the of that particular image is obviously to answer the question for them.
That's interesting. It's almost like the best of both worlds. They get, in reality, the room is empty. They can see it as a blank slate.
Yeah.
But they also are given nudge to the idea of, here's what you can do with this room as an option.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.